Start your week with a triple shot of good vibes. This is the Project Joy podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas. Thanks for joining me. Good morning, everyone. And now it's time for this week's story of joy. So I've talked about my love of music before, and I had such a joyful moment this last week as I realized how many amazing musicians and singers and songwriters we've had on the Breakthrough Show already. You know, it was such a real level of importance for me to have musicians on the show this year because it was my first love. It was something that I always really enjoyed doing, and I could see myself doing throughout my whole life. And my life has taken a very different turn, but music is still very important to me and big in my life. And even though it looks very different than what I envisioned it when I was, say, 8, 9, 10 years old, right? But we've had some really incredible musicians on the show, and I was listening to Spotify this weekend or this last week, and I thought I need to make a playlist of the people that have been on the show. We've had, Kevin Kiley the most recently this last Friday, who was amazing. We've had Olivia Umbani. We have had Greg Lennon. We have had Aaron Hill and Abby Miracle. And so I made a playlist of, and you guys are going to see it if you're on our Facebook page, Breakthrough, or facebook.com/breakthrough show. But I made this playlist of the incredible musicians that have been on the show. And I'm so excited because when I listen to it, I'm so inspired, but I'm also like, it really has, like, we've had this incredible entertainment on the show. And in addition, I also, I've mentioned before that I sing on a particular website fairly often. And I did a song. Someone requested me to do something recently, and I did it this a few days ago, and I had so much fun. It was like the biggest, it was the biggest release when you find that song that you can just completely feel with your whole being. And that's what we talked about with Kevin on the show. And it was just amazing. And so I had a great moment with myself with music this last week. And also, like I said, that realization that we've had incredible musicians on the show. So again, if you're on our Facebook page, facebook.com/breakthrough show. I might get it together today. We'll see. Be on the lookout for that playlist because it'll inspire you. It'll make you feel good, and you'll love it. You'll love it. It'll be amazing. So we'll be back in just a minute for more of the Project Joy podcast. What's up, everybody? It's Jessica here from the Project Joy podcast, and I'm here today to tell you about something that has been completely life-changing for me. Are you tired of trying to get stuff done by yourself? Do you need accountability? Are you ready to finally, not just talk about it, but do it, declutter your space physically, mentally, emotionally to live the best possible life you are here to live? Then you, my friend, need the BYOC, or Bring Your Own Clutter membership. This membership is run by my friend Heather Clark, and it has been life-changing for me. You need this. You need this in 2020. Join us. Go to declutterforchange.com. And now back to the podcast. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Project Joy podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I am so excited to be here for another episode with you today. We are talking about, for episode 27 today, joy in awakening. Now, this is a topic that I hear a lot in the spiritual development world, in the personal development world, and we've heard it even more recently with everything going on in the world. There are a lot of thoughts and opinions and a lot of things coming to light that maybe were not coming to light before. And there's a lot of people that are like feeling that sense of awakening, that sense of realization. So I want to start out really quickly for this episode by sharing the actual definition of awakening, because it's something that I think we all interpret that differently. It's like every other word. We all interpret that very differently, right? We so the dictionary, my friend dictionary.com, says that it's an act or moment of becoming suddenly aware of something. The act or moment of becoming suddenly aware of something. And the adjective of the word is coming into existence or awareness. Now, when I look a little bit deeper, there's a couple different places that on the internet that I saw different expanded definitions of awakening. And so someone asked, what does spiritual awakening mean? And they said spiritual awakening is an awakening of a dimension of reality beyond the confines of ego. Our ego is our exclusive sense or self of I. This awakening occurs when, for whatever reason, the ego somehow lets go so that a higher self or spirit can arise within. Also saw it can refer to other forms of new or sudden consciousness. Anytime you realize or accept something important and life changing, it can be called an awakening because it's almost like you were asleep before. Now, it's very similar to the conversations that we've had regarding breakthroughs. It's all well, fine, good, as Prophet Calvin Witcher says, it's cute to have these breakthrough moments presented to us, to have this awakening presented to us. So is it really a breakthrough? Is it really awakening if we don't actually change anything from that new knowledge, that waking up? It's a really good question to ask, because we see a lot of instances where someone is presented with or has this moment, this awakening, this breakthrough in their lives, and then nothing changes afterwards. They continue to live this, and that I know that that I know that in the spiritual world, spirit, God does not let you it'll keep coming up. If you don't change things, if you don't do anything about it, it'll keep coming up in your life. But it's a really important question to ask. Is it truly an awakening or a breakthrough if we don't do anything about it, if we don't learn anything? And so, like I usually do, that makes me wonder and question about the definition of it. So I guess we can say it's awakening to wake up to an idea of something, but then we have to say, what are we going to do with it? What are we going, now that we have this knowledge, now that we've quote unquote woken up to whatever, what are we going to do with this knowledge? Are we going to continue to live our lives the same way? And I think that, that really is the difference between someone who stays in a cycle of whatever it is that they're not thrilled with in their life, or someone who's successful and is able to move forward and is able to pull themselves out. How many times do we have to repeat the same awakenings or awareness? Again, going down that rabbit hole of do we actually awaken if we continue to repeat the same thing? And I think in some instances that's true, because that can happen. We're human. We're not perfect individuals. And so it's one of those things where I think we have to ask ourselves, when these things happen, are we ready to take that next step? Are we ready to move forward? And I'm one that believes that if you are presented with this moment of awakening, this information, this knowledge, this breakthrough, that to use it. And so how do we tie in joy to this? Because awakenings can be something that are really, really challenging in the spiritual and in the spiritual world. Sometimes a spiritual awakening, there are people that have described it as being really not a fun experience, for lack of a better word. That it can sometimes be physically challenging, because we know that making changes in our in our energy can affect us in a physical way. We can, it can be very painful in that relationships can sometimes come to a halt. And there's a lot of different things associated with this idea of awakening that can be very painful. And so, what I have heard from so many people that have told their story of awakening is that they didn't really see the joy until it was over, finished, done, and they could look back and say, okay, now I know why that had to happen, and now I can find the joy in it. So, how do we find the joy in a moment? And I think it's one of those things where it has to be a constant choice and reminder to ourselves that this too shall pass, that this is for a reason. It does that mean that we have to be smiling through things that are, not fun for us? No, because again, we're human beings, right? But I think it's important for us to remember in the moment that again, this too shall pass, that this is for our highest good, and surround yourself with people who have been through an awakening themselves, who have been through breakthroughs, and who have used those things to better their lives, to move forward in their lives, and just have those people around that can remind you that it'll be okay, but to also allow you to be human being too. I think if we try to, I love the buzz phrase that's going around right now, spiritual bypass. If we try to spiritually bypass the very human experiences in this awakening process that we go through, it's not a good situation. It's not a good situation if we try to do that, because it takes away the value from what I believe that we're experiencing. The other thing that I want to point out before we finish up today about this is that, one of the most challenging things about awakening is that it can challenge all of the things that we have believed in. And the reason why that's challenging is because as human beings, we don't like to be wrong. We like to be in control. We don't like to find out that the last 39 years of our lives, we've been living a lie, or we've been living with information that has not been true. Who wants to do that? No one that I know likes the process of being called out, of saying, this is not correct information, or this is not information. I don't even like so much to use wrong and not wrong, correct, incorrect, but the information that you've had this whole time has not actually been helping you. And so no one likes that, right? No one, I mean, you could tell me in the comments, or you can email me at projectjoypodcast@gmail.com. You can let me know if you actually do enjoy that. I don't know any human beings that enjoy that enjoy being called out in that kind of way. But I think really where we can find the joy is getting, like it talks about, putting the ego aside, putting that ego aside and saying, oh, and you don't even have to say like, I was wrong for all these years, or whatever it is that, that wrong language that can trigger you, but just saying, I am opening myself to new information. I am capable. I have the ability of integrating this new information in my life so that I can move forward and find the joy in this breakthrough, instead of the guilt, instead of the, beating ourselves up and all of that. We'll be back in just a minute for more of the Project Joy podcast. What's up, everyone? It's Jessica here, your host of the Project Joy podcast, and of course, the Breakthrough Show. I want to take a moment and thank all of our supporters here at the show. With your financial support, we are able to expand the show and reach more people, with the hopes of inspiring our audience members to change their lives for the better and know they are supported during times of breakthrough. We welcome our one-time contributions to our show by sending a PayPal to business@thebreakthroughshow.com, or you can join us at patreon.com/thebreakthroughshow, where you'll be rewarded for your regular contribution with things like our exclusive community, Soul Connection Collective, merchandise discounts, fun shout-outs on the show, and more. On behalf of everyone here at The Breakthrough Show and its network, we thank you for your generous support. And now, back to the podcast. Welcome back to the Project Joy podcast with your host, Jessica Dugas. Coming up next week on the Project Joy podcast, it'll be episode 28. Finishing out the month like we usually do, we will have another episode in our series of Joy in Stories. That means that we will have a special guest on the show that will share about joy in their lives, what it means to them, particular stories of joy. It'll be so much fun. You're just going to have to tune in next week to find out who that's going to be. Until next week, guys, please take a moment to rate, subscribe, comment, and share, and make every day a great day for joy. We'll see you next time. You've been listening to the Project Joy podcast with your host, Jessica Dugas. We'll see you again next Monday and every Monday for another episode to start your week off right.